let me go ahead and show you what boxwood blooms look like. And these I had already started to prune and shape into a ball topiary. Here are a couple of shrubs that I picked up recently at the Home Depot. Well, one of them is actually a tree. So I made a rookie move when I started my seeds, and I started way too many seedlings. Here are the zinnias that I'll be growing. This variety I grew for a couple of years now. I've had this seed packet since 2021. Also happens to be Fertilizer Friday. So I'm gonna... Hi, it's Steph, and it is finally a beautiful morning here in the Northeast. The rain has stopped, at least for now, and there's a couple of things that I want to get done. Today, my plan is to swap out a couple of the evergreens that I have in some planters on our patio by our back door. So we'll do that. I also picked up a couple of new plants that I'm going to share with you, and we'll even get one of them planted. I plan on starting some more seeds, some annuals, warm weather annuals, some zinnias, some cosmos, maybe even some sunflowers. And I'll give you an update on how the seedlings that we're growing are doing. And yeah, so let's just do a couple of random things. We're here by the back door, and these are the two planters that I'm planning on changing out the evergreen in. They currently have a type of arborvitae in them, and originally I bought these at an end of season clearance, and they were unmarked, so I don't know what type of arborvitae they are. But these have been planted here for a couple of years, and they're not doing well. It could be because this area gets part sun, and they might need a little bit more sun. So I'm just going to go ahead and swap them out with some boxwood that I have on hand that can handle a little more shade. George and I have been doing a lot of work over the last month on our raised bed garden update, and we'll be ready to share that with all of you really soon. And I'm really loving the way that it's turning out. But in those raised beds, we had a couple of things that I had planted to overwinter, including these boxwood that I needed to dig up and move out so that we could swap out the beds. Now, these are ones that I had started to train into a topiary. You can see there's a bit of a stem there, but they've gotten misshapen because I just left them in the bed for a while. So now I'm going to swap these out for the ones in those planters, and we'll shape them up again. Another shrub that I had to move out of the raised bed garden that I had overwintered is this Korean spice viburnum that I purchased at the Home Depot last year. Now, I didn't know where I wanted to put it, but I did have this on my wish list for a while, so I was happy to find it. And I placed it right here in this area, and I'll explain why. So this gravel path is the one that takes you down to our raised bed garden, and we often get questions about this black fabric. Now, this is industrial grade landscape fabric, and the reason it's down here is because this was a woodland area that was overrun with really thick brush. There were buckthorn and briar, as well as pokeweed, just terribly invasive weeds. So once we cleared this area out, we knew that there was a need to suppress all of those weeds so that they wouldn't return after we had all that hard work. So we put down this fabric, and it's been doing a beautiful job of suppressing those weeds. And slowly I've been working on some woodland gardens in this area. So anytime that we dig a hole in our garden for a plant, chances are we're going to find a rock. So we took the rocks that we've been digging up over the years, and we made a tree ring around these scrub pines and oaks. And I have a beautiful rhododendron and a lilac, and currently the tete-a-tete daffodils are blooming and some hyacinth. So this is looking really pretty. And I have some part shade perennials like columbine and bleeding hearts that will start blooming soon. And I've been working on adding some shrubs. And it's difficult to plant under trees because there's a lot of root competitions. You need things that like dry shade. So I've been working on looking for some things that I can add maybe more on this side here. But back to the shrub here. So what I did was I planted it in what will be the center of a path between this garden bed and this one here that we're going to work on at some point slowly as I find more rocks. I'll make another ring. But this here, I have a rhododendron as well as an azalea that my grandmother gave me, so it's sentimental, and then a dwarf forsythia that's actually just starting to bloom. And the plan is to have this path and the viburnum as a centerpiece. Now, it doesn't look like it's in the middle now, but let me show you. There it is. It's in the center of this path, and I'm going to kind of walk you through. So my goal is to have these paths to meander through the garden, which I think is really interesting and fun. So this woodland area over time will hopefully have something covering this black fabric, either some gravel or even some wood chips. We planted a Japanese maple here at the end of the path. This was actually a seedling. It's a verdes, or a green one, that is growing really well. And then I have a rhododendron that I transplanted here because it was getting too much sun in a different spot. So I'm trying to plant things in all these corners so that as you come around, you see these different plants. And this is that woodland bed that has all of my hellebore and the pyrus that just finished blooming. Still has some blooms on it. Did really beautifully this year. And then you come back up this other gravel path. So we just did a circle. And here you are in our Japanese maple garden, which will look beautiful in another month with all of its spring color. So I'll be sure to give you a tour. So that is what we're doing back here. It's basically a woodland space that I'm slowly trying to develop. We've lived here for 13 years now, and it takes a long time to have beautiful established gardens. So slowly we'll get there. Here are the 2 boxwood that I had dug up that I planned on putting in these planters, but I had some more boxwood that I had overwintered over on the south side of my house near my AC units. And these I had already started to prune and shape into a ball topiary. And they're looking a little bit better in terms of scale for me to put in these 2 planters by the door. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these instead, and I will just start trimming those and training those as well to use somewhere else in the garden. So this is what we're going to go with, and I'm going to go ahead and put those in the planters. Here we are on the south side of the house, and this is exactly where I overwintered some of that boxwood from last season that I hadn't had a chance to plant out in the garden. And because this area is full sun all day long, and these boxwood are sheltered by the AC units, it is pretty warm in here. The ones that I actually picked out have already started to flower. Let me go ahead and show you what boxwood blooms look like. And here are the boxwood blooms. First, it starts off like a little button, just like this, okay? And then they will start to open up with these little fuzzy blooms that almost look like bottle brush or even like Fothergilla. And this is what boxwood blooms look like. So yeah, because that's in a little bit of a microclimate there between the house and the AC units, these were a little ahead. When I dug up the evergreen, I also took out a lot of the soil that was in there because I'm going to replace it with fresh soil. Each season I only go in and put in a couple of inches of fresh soil on top, but the soil that was here for a couple of years and had a lot of roots in it, so it needed freshening up, especially now that I'm putting in a new shrub that will need all of the nutrients in the fresh soil to get its roots going. And I'm also going to go ahead and trim back this creeping Jenny. Now this is a really pretty trailer in the front of this container because it gets really bright yellow, and I really like the way that it looks with this dark planter. And you can see that it's already pushing out a bunch of new growth. So I'm going to go ahead and also clean up all of this creeping Jenny. I have to tell you that using a Hori to dig out the roots of an old shrub is super helpful because it literally saws right through the roots. A Hori is only a tool that, even though I've been gardening for over a decade now, I only picked up a couple of years ago, and it's been invaluable. I use it for so many things in the garden, from dividing perennials to digging out roots. It is just so helpful. So I thought that I would share that tip with you in case you're not familiar with a garden tool called a Hori. I'm really happy with the way these turned out. A couple of years ago, I had purchased these boxwoods at Walmart, and I had made a video back in 2022 about how I was training these topiaries into these little ball shapes, and they've grown quite a bit in 2 years. And while they still look a little bit small in comparison to the planter, they're going to continue to grow. And it's a lot less expensive to buy a boxwood and train it into a topiary than to buy one already as a topiary. And I find it a lot of fun to actually prune and trim them and shape them. So that's what I'm going to continue to do with these. As they grow, I'll trim them and keep them in a nice tight ball shape. And I think they will look really pretty here flanking this back door. Now you can see that this topiary boxwood here has a nice straight center stem. And I actually already bought it with a nice stem like that. So it wasn't too much work to start training it into a nice ball. But the other one has multi-trunk with a center stem also. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to that one to get it looking like this. Now this one here, you can see that it has multiple trunks, but there's also a nice straight center stem. Because this boxwood was really small when I purchased it, I didn't want to start taking off those side shoots just yet. But now as it gets bigger, one at a time, I'm going to take these side shoots off. And once it has more top growth, it'll start filling in and look a lot better. And eventually I will end up with a center stem on this boxwood topiary to match the other. And here are a couple of shrubs that I picked up recently at the Home Depot. Well, one of them is actually a tree. It is this one here. It's called a fringe tree, and it happens to be native here in the Northeast. Chianthus virginicus? I think that's how you say that. And it looks like it gets 12 to 20 feet in height and has these really beautiful white blooms that are very similar to the Chinese fringe flower or to the loropetalum. It blooms in early to late summer, and it needs 12 to 20 foot spacing, hardy down to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. So I was really happy to find this one. I like the shape on it too. I picked one that had multiple trunks so that it could be a multiple trunk tree, and it's all budded up. So I'm hoping that I'll get to see it bloom. So that one I have to find a spot for. And then I picked up this rhododendron. Look at this. Beautiful color on those blooms. It's like a light peach apricot. It's called Percy Wiseman, and the foliage looked really healthy, and it's starting to bud. So I might even get blooms out of this one too. So I'm going to plan on planting this rhododendron here in this bed. I've actually already stuck the shovel where I'm planning to put it, somewhere in that area, because rhododendrons are understory trees. They like a part shade location. So I think this will be a really good spot for it. So I'm going to go ahead and work on planting this rhododendron. And there is the rhododendron all planted up. And I have that pink one in the corner there, which is really happy in this spot. So I think that this one in this light peach apricot color is going to do really well here also. Now I just have to go through and rake up all of these leaves in this bed and apply a fresh coat of mulch, and it will be pretty good for the season. I do have some plans to put a couple of different perennials in here that I'll be working on over the next several weeks. So I made a rookie move when I started my seeds, and I started way too many seedlings. And when I went to split them out and pop them up, I couldn't part with too many of them because what if some fail and I need backups, right? So I kept too many of them, and then I ran out of grow light space. Now this is the first time in 7 years that I've been growing seedlings inside. So I did need to buy a few supplies this year. And what I had to do recently is get another set of grow lights so that I can accommodate all of these seedlings. And I thought that I would just mention it because I've been really liking these lights and having a good experience with them. So I thought that I I would share with you what I've been liking about them and how my seedlings are doing. So these are the T8 grow lights by Barrina. They're a 4-foot light that comes in a 6-pack. And what I've been liking about them and why I just ordered another set is that they are configurable. So you get 6 lights that you can either hook up all together or you can hook them up separately. So this shelf here, the way that I set them up was I put each light on a different plug. And so what that allowed me to do was, as I potted up seedlings and as I needed the shelf space, I was able to turn on one at a time. So here you can see when I switch off the light, I can turn off this shelf, I can turn off this shelf, and if I just want to leave that one on, I can. So I find that that's great because as your seedlings grow, you might not necessarily need all 6 of your grow lights on at once. So that's one way you can configure them. Or you can have all of the lights on just one cord, which is what I did with this shelf here. My new set, I just configured them all on one plug. So all I have to do is turn this on once and all of them are on or off. Now I do have them on a timer, but I thought that this was a great set to mention. I have actually used shop lights in the past, and I didn't think that the bulb was strong enough to make my seedlings grow. And I found a huge difference with using actual grow lights. This pink white coloring on them is really helping my seedlings be really robust and grow really well, much better than an experience that I had in the past with a shop light. So I will leave the link to these below if you're interested in ordering any grow lights for your seed growing needs. I'll put them in the link in the description as well as in the pinned comment. These have worked out well for me, so I had to go ahead and order another set. The good news is I had to make the investment this year, but I'll be good to go for next year and every year after that. Now that I have a little bit more grow light space and I've freed up some of these burpee trays once I started potting things up, I have some room to grow some of my warm weather annuals indoor under the grow lights. So these are all seeds that can be started outside once your last frost date has passed. Zinnias, cosmos, sunflowers, and they're really easy to direct sow. But I'm going to go ahead and sow some of these today in these trays just to give me a head start. I'm about 4 weeks out from my last frost date, and then should I decide, I can also direct sow some once it starts to warm up. But here are the zinnias that I'll be growing. This variety I grew for a couple of years now. I've had this seed packet since 2021. Really beautiful, large pink zinnia. It is called the Zinnia Giant Double Enchantress. I grew this one last year for the first time. Really pretty, large white zinnia called Polar Bear. This one I grew a couple of years ago. It is the Zinnia Pink Zinniarita. It is a cactus style zinnia and a really pretty salmon color. And of course the Queen Lime series, which is really beautiful. I'm going to grow the Queen Lime Orange again. The red I hadn't grown in a couple of years, but I'm going to go ahead and grow the Queen Lime Red again this year. And I also picked up Queen Lime Blush. And of course the Benary's Giant varieties, which are really pretty large zinnias. And the 3 Benary's Giants that I'll be growing are the Golden Yellow, the Salmon Rose, and the Wine Benary's Giant. For Cosmos, I'll be growing the Cosmos Sonata White. This is a variety that I grew last year. It's a more compact version of Cosmo, only at about 1.5 to 2 feet tall and 1 foot wide. The Cosmos Fizzy Rose Picotee, Cosmos Summer Dreams, and Cosmos Seashells. And for sunflowers, I'll be growing the Gypsy Charmer, Sunflower Orange Hobbit, and Sunflower Moonshine. All right, the zinnias are under the grow lights. And of course, I used all 4 trays for just zinnias because I had a few varieties. So I'm going to go ahead and cover these with saran wrap to serve as a humidity dome because now I want these to germinate like yesterday because we're 4 weeks out from the last frost date and I want blooms sooner than later. So I'm going to clear out this tray here actually to pot these up. These are raspberry ripple zinnias as well as some scabiosa, so that I'll have this tray available to start some cosmos and some sunflowers. But all in all, things are looking pretty well. I recently started something new to me, Dusty Miller. My friend Sue over at Garden Moxie, she has a channel here on YouTube. She shared some Dusty Miller seeds with me, and I just recently sowed them just on the 4th of April, and they're already starting to germinate. It's always fun to try something new. I've never grown Dusty Miller before, so it'll be fun to see how that goes. And my Barrina, actually I have to water this. Good, they're looking a little dry. But here's my Dalmatian Peach Foxglove. And then these are the Snowball Feverfew and the Blue Horizon Ageratum. And then I have a couple of tomatoes that are looking pretty good. And these little cute ones here are Sahara Rudbeckia that I've never grown before. They're very fuzzy looking. They almost look like they'd be prickly, but they're not. And some other things that look really, really big besides the marigolds. This here is Strawflower. So that's looking really good too. And then these are asters. Even the pansies are looking okay. They've definitely put on some size, but knowing what I know now, I definitely wouldn't start pansies in February. I think pansies need to be started in either December or January in order for them to be ready to go outside in mid to late April. So that is my observation on growing pansies so far this year. It also happens to be Fertilizer Friday. So I'm going to go ahead and mix some of this Espoma organic grow fertilizer to feed the seedlings. And this year things are just looking really good. Like I said, I hadn't grown things or seedlings inside for about 7 years, but between having grow lights, good quality potting soil, and fertilizing them regularly, things are looking really, really good. And I'm so excited about it. I just hope that I don't jinx it and I can keep it going for another 4 weeks until it's ready to get these hardened off and planted out in the garden. So if you're newer to growing seeds, hardening off is the process of acclimating your seeds to the outdoor temperatures so that you don't shock them before they get planted outside. So I will do that, like I said, in about 4 weeks or so, and I will document the process and share that with you in case it's something that you're interested in learning about as well. Today was a beautiful day to spend outside doing some things. I know that the South and some warmer parts have been able to get outside in their garden for quite some time now. And then there are some of you who are still getting snow and not great weather. But pretty soon it's going to warm up for all of us and we'll be able to spend some more time out in our gardens. So today was really productive. I'm really happy with the way that these boxwoods turned out. I'm going to go ahead and plant up some more boxwood in some planters so I can start training them into topiary. My seedlings are looking really good and pretty soon we'll be able to plant those out. So all in all, a good start to the season. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.